Hi, this is Mark Birch, and today I'm going to be offering analysis and revision of Carol Ann Duffy's Prayer. The poem explores how, in a faithless secular society, we still find comfort in small things that act as metaphorical prayers. Ironically, the poem adopts a sermonic tone, particularly evident in the opening of the third stanza, "Pray for us now." The whole poem acts as a form of prayer, and its rhythms, tone, phonological features and form complement this. It's a prayer not to God, but to those elements of life that provide hope and comfort. Duffy employs the form of a Shakespearean sonnet. The word sonnet is derived from the Italian sonetto, meaning little sound or song. And this is entirely appropriate in this case, as the poem captures the sound of prayer and its musicality. Written in loose iambic pentameter, the rhythm emulates the regular patterns of song or the chanting of a prayer, and this is supported by the use of the semantic field of music, minims, sung, and chanting. Sonnets traditionally represent love or devotion, again supporting the poem's central themes. The rhyme scheme conforms to the conventional Shakespearean sonnet form of 3 quatrains with alternating rhymes, followed by a rhyming couplet. One of the interesting structural choices is that Duffy echoes the rhyme of the opening line, A, with that of the final line, G. This creates a cyclical structure that mirrors the poem's theme of renewal. The final word of the poem, Synesthesia, literally means the ends of the earth, but its rhyme with prayer in the opening line suggests an end that's also a beginning, a new start. This idea is also evident in the opening of the first and second stanzas, some days and some nights. The parallel creates an echo, giving a sense of these prayers being universal, occurring at any time. Duffy uses the first-person plural pronoun, we, to refer to society as a whole. Society is faithless, so we cannot pray. It seems paradoxical that, despite this, a prayer utters itself, but it's the prayer itself that's given agency. While we do not pray, in a conventional sense, a prayer appears involuntarily as it's something found in the world around us. The metaphor of the sieve of her hands captures the image of a woman holding her head in her hands, a symbol of despair. Sieve denotes an object that lets unwanted things pass through it, perhaps in this case the unwanted emotions. A sieve is a domestic item, and given that Duffy specifies the gender of the person here, she may be suggesting that it's the domestic sphere, traditionally ascribed to women, that can cause isolation and despair. And I'm conscious that that sounds really sexist. The prayer that frees the woman from this despair is the gentle sound of the wind rustling the leaves of a tree. The tree's personified as singing, making the joyous aspect of this conspicuous. The gentle nature of the sound is captured by the use of minims, or half notes, suggesting that the sounds are short, and this is complemented by the consonants of sibilant sounds that dominate the description, providing a gentle representation of the sound of the wind. The synesthesia of stare at the minims may capture the transformative nature of prayer or comfort, as the poetic voice looks at a sound, transforming the oral into the visual. The opening of the second stanza echoes that of the first, reinforcing the idea that an inability to pray is a result of being faithless. The truth that enters our hearts is ambiguous. It may represent the idea that we're all alone, all aging, or all dying. It's a painful truth that we may recognise at times, despite not having the protective barrier of our faith to act as solace to these kinds of truths. Duffy offers an example of how solace can be found through a man who hears a train in the distance. Like the tree, it's the sound that it produces that offers a form of comfort. The sound itself is represented through the alliteration of the st sounds in stand, stock, still, the repetitive hard consonant sounds mirroring the clatter of a train. Latin chanting may refer to the kind of recitation of Latin declensions that would have been a part of a grammar school education in the 50s. Preco, precas, precat, precamus. The repetitive sound of the train could remind the man of the repetitive sound of declensions during his school days, providing a moment of positive reflection. The reference to Latin chanting could also be an allusion to the Catholic Mass that the man may have experienced in his youth. In a similar way, the third stanza presents a lodger consoled by grade 1 piano scales. These repetitive sounds are not sophisticated or beautiful, but they are associated with youth and may transport this individual back to their youth. Again, Duffy uses a phonological technique to represent the repetitive sound. In this case, consonants of the L sound in scales console the lodger looking. It's significant that the person referred to is a lodger. They don't belong, and their residence is temporary, making the link to fixed moments in memory all the more reassuring. The lodger's dislocation is also reinforced by the description of them looking out across a Midlands town. They're presented as apart from the town, separate from it, and the enjambment creates a literal distance for the reader that could symbolise the sense of alienation experienced by the lodger. The description of someone calling a child's name at dusk would have been very familiar to anyone in the pre-mobile phone era, but the need for prayer is evident in this, as Duffy suggests a sense of fear in the speaker. The simile, as though they named their loss, implies that the speaker's concerned that the child is lost. They will not respond to the call. The poem's concluding couplet might confuse anyone unfamiliar with Radio 4's shipping forecast. Rockall, Marlin, Dogger, Finisterre are all geographical locations referred to in the nightly forecast. Many people listen to this broadcast because of the poetry of the language and the reassuring familiarity of these same names repeating nightly. In some ways, it acts as a secular prayer.
Rockall, Malin, south 4 to 6, increasing 7 or gale 8, perhaps severe gale 9 later in north. Rain later, good, becoming moderate or poor. Hebrides, Bailey, Faroe, Faroes, southeast Iceland.
Like the Latin Mass in pre-Reformation England, many people who listen to the shipping forecast have no idea what the words mean, but they possess a mysterious and magical quality that provides comfort and reassurance, hinting at some greater power beyond their understanding. Duffy uses anadiplosis of antithetical terms in outside, inside. The closely juxtaposed contrasts force the reader to recognise the contrast between the dark and threatening outside world and the safety afforded by the comforting repetition of the radio's prayer, the shipping forecast. Like all such sounds, the familiarity can create a sense of peace, nostalgia or comfort without any appeal to religion. Okay, ta.